Kedley, welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
To Business Insider, and for Milestone Bellanova too. Can we start? You've had, and we've joked in the past about, you know, salubrious Woy Woy as the starting point. You've moved to East Gosford. Business has grown over the last couple of years. If we look back and choose one or two of those strategies that you implemented early on, is there one you think was fantastic and you'd go back?
Well, I guess if you're looking at the history of Milestone Bellanova and go right back to the very beginning, I guess in essence, Milestone Bellanova came out of my corporate marketing career. And that's what I brought to the coast when I decided to stop commuting and to live up here. You know corporate marketing, you know, it's the multi-million-dollar, big budgets, you know, your corporate ID manual is that thick, you know, branding is throughout the whole organisation. And they were the strategies that I wanted to bring to the coast. And I guess when you think about how the coast was when I started 14 years ago, it was a very different place to the market we're in today. A lot of design studios on the coast, you know, some film studios, but really the core marketing principles that I wanted to bring to the coast weren't really here in evidence. Because the way I see marketing is all these principles of marketing should be there whether you've got a multi-million-dollar budget or whether you're a small business. And I found, if you're looking at change, over the years there's been a lot of great businesses come to the coast that have really appreciated marketing and the core marketing principles a lot more than they did in the early days. So that's the way I've always developed the business. We don't just do pretty brochures. You know, we've always wanted to look deeply into a client's business, understand their target. I mean, sure, they may not have $50,000 to go and spend on ad testing, but it's the same principle. You've got to start from a strategic base. So I guess we started like that and we really haven't changed.
Has it been a journey of change for you and your clients? Let's talk about changing client perspectives. Have you had a process that you've tried to follow, or is every client different?
I think sometimes clients don't know what they want when they call us in. They may just be wanting, you know, the latest communication. You know, they might ask for a press campaign or a TV campaign. So we go through a process of really trying to understand the client, and we may sit there for 2 hours. And at the end of that, yes, I do think their perspective changes quite often. Not with all clients, but we know that there are certain clients that are our target and other ones that aren't. And those ones who just want a cheap flyer, etc., they're not our target. Over the years, I mean, we've got clients that go back 14 years. And I would say that relationships develop, they trust you more. When we input more than they're expecting and then they can see the results, then the next time they ask for more. So, and I've also found that with the GFC things have changed as well. Clients who in the past wouldn't employ a marketing agency and were willing to spend dollars on TV, radio, whatever, and not test, now they're looking for more return. So we've had clients who've brought us in as marketing consultants. We don't do their design work and we don't do their writing, etc. They do a lot in-house, but we're the marketing consultants for them now because they need to get more from their marketing dollar than they ever did before.
So with that, it's kind of evolving with the marketplace, and the GFC has indeed changed everything. So, you know, what we thought was a business proposition in early 2008 is no longer that business proposition. The development of, I guess, your business, if we look at, you know, the issues you've faced, because staffing is, you know, you hire talented people. Well, except for, no, I won't. No, I should explain.
My husband just joined the business. He's very talented, thank you.
Yes, indeed, indeed. How have you managed that? Has that been trial and error, or have you always had a view on who you should be hiring?
I think I've had a different model to a lot of agencies on the coast because, I mean, the Central Coast is freelancer heaven. I mean, this is where they come to work from home. And because of that, that's driven the price down of quality services, I have to say that. It's a very different market to Sydney. But I've always taken the attitude that I want to employ my staff. We're a collaborative team, we work together, we try to achieve a high standard of, you know, creative and strategic services. I can't see we can do that with freelancers that don't understand our culture, don't understand our clients, and don't have that ability and that trust to work in a collaborative team. So I think, I mean, I've spoken to consultants who said, yes, you know, it's not the most profitable model, but I believe it's the right model for our clients, and I think that's the way we've managed to maintain that high level of service.
I've met some of your consultants, they're excellent people. Okay, if we talk about, again, post-GFC, like 2011, 2012, brand new financial year, where would you like to lead your business over the next 12 months?
We're growing still, but my husband's just come on board. He's an IT specialist, 24 years in IT and digital media. So that's a real focus for us at the moment, having the resources to expand that. And that is where a lot of the market's going anyway. It's more cost effective, it's very measurable. And a lot of our clients that have been very traditional marketers are integrating digital media into their mix at the moment. So from a business perspective, and I guess in internal services perspective, that's one area that we're moving into. But we're also looking at expanding into other markets. And we tried it. I know you're going to ask me what we've done wrong. We tried it twice, moving physically into Newcastle. And I would say that was a very tough thing for us to do. We didn't get the model right. We took on salespeople, not marketing people, and I think that was a real disadvantage, because really we needed to replicate what we were doing here in Newcastle, not with salespeople.
But it's marketing based, it's marketing consultancy based, isn't it?
That's right, exactly, with services where we are. Now we've got a lot of clients in Newcastle, but you know, Newcastle's very parochial. Those clients have come out of referrals. So we'd like to move more regionally over the next year or so, but we're also looking at the Australian market with an online business. And to me, you can't have an online presence that is both local and national. It doesn't work. You know, you can't pretend to be something you're not. The online business is set up to be an online business. You know, everything about it is founded in a way that is different to a traditional business. So we're growing, I think, in different ways. It's not just growing on the Central Coast. I really would like to grow out to some of those other markets.
Fantastic. Okay, let's talk about work-life. You decided to employ your husband. I've got to have a coffee with Carl in a couple of months and just find out how that's working out for the new staff member. You have young children, young-ish.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? You know, because Barbara Kelty, I once knew, was working most weekends to deliver, you know, papers and documents and that sort of thing. Is that still happening?
And I still do.
You still do.
Yes. Someone said to me once, you know, after 14 years, you shouldn't be working on the weekend. But I guess to me it comes down to a definition. You know, what is work? And if I was doing the mundane, boring tasks on the weekend that I felt really agitated about, then I'd define that as work. But the type of things that I do on the weekend are the exciting things that I don't necessarily have time for during the week. But they're the development things that will move us forward. And I don't call that work. You know, to me, you say work and life, does that mean that you don't have life when you're working? No, I'm passionate, I love my work. And my children have been brought up with my business. You know, my youngest one, he's 10 now, but he had a creche in the office and a nanny, and you know, he is the happiest little boy ever. He was spoiled rotten. But I mean, I suffer the guilt as anybody else about being a working mother. You know, people put pressure on you to say, you know, you don't spend enough time with your children. But I asked them a few years ago, would you prefer me to be, you know, a stay-at-home mum and not have the business? And they looked at me like I had two heads or something. You know, this business has been part of their lives since they were tiny, and they don't want to work in it. They've made that really clear. The business is my business. They want to be lawyers and audio engineers and vets and things like that, but the business is almost like a second home to them. So I feel that, you know, there's a balance there, because if you're enjoying it, then there is a balance.
Actually, it's reflected all the way through our interviews, Barbara. You won't be shocked, but it is about enjoying it and having the passion for the work, and then it reflects positively on everything else. As soon as there's a little pressure there, then that's another thing. But yeah. Okay.
I mean, business is stressful. There's no way you can get away from that, but you just accept that. You know, you wear 10 hats and you wear 3 at home. You know, it is just the way life is.
So it's restful at home. A rant, we like to give our participants an opportunity to get something off their chest. Is there anything on the Central Coast or in a business environment that you would love to see change if you could just change it quickly?
I thought about this one and I thought mediocrity is really the thing that gets me, because not much really riles me these days. I sort of, you know, don't get angry at a great deal of things. But when I moved to the coast, there is a level of mediocrity on the coast. Good enough is good enough. And we try to achieve a lot more than that, and a lot of a segment of the market will say, but I don't need that. I just need something quick. You know, I'm placing an ad that cost me $1,000. You know, I'm going to do my own ad because that's good enough. You know, so that level of good enough is good enough. Yeah, that really annoys me. And I have the same in my team. I mean, you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. You know, things don't go out unless they are absolutely spot on as far as I'm concerned. And if they do, I'm happy to do it again. And I think that people do accept less than their best sometimes. And I sort of go back to my corporate world. And
what do you think the basis of this is, Bara? What, you know, the fact is you're going outside the coast to grow your business.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing. You know, you've got your platform here to launch from. But there is, if everyone picked, you know, if instead of being 80-20, you know, 20% caring about the output of everything they do and 80% saying, okay, near enough is good enough.
yeah,
If we could sneak that up to 40% caring, you know, that would be a wonderful thing. You know, I think we'd be progressing our community base, would be and progressing our commercial base. Why don't we move that? How can we move?
I think it comes down to caring, you know, and really having a passion for what you do, and also saving face. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just easier just to churn something, and if a client accepts it or whatever industry you're in, then great, okay, I got it across the line, let's move on. But I remember doing a great commercial with a really good agency in Sydney when I was in my corporate world, and I don't know if you remember the Don't Get Mad, Get Even campaign for FAI. And we developed this campaign with the agency, and we loved the idea, and it got sold to the CEO and everyone loved it. And then we spoke to the director, who wasn't involved in the initial planning, and he said, no, you've got it all wrong. You know, we were making it funny, and he said, no, I want it to be emotive. I want people to feel that connection and to really move them. And we thought, no, he's right. You know, we did get that wrong. It was an idea, and it was a good enough idea, and it was probably quite a good idea, but he was better. And to take that back to the client and say, actually, we got it wrong. The client actually said, the CEO said, well, so you're telling me your first idea wasn't going to work and you sold that to me? But in the truth, it was a really risky thing to do, to say, our original ideas were great, but not good enough, we've got a better one. And I think that is when you really start to push the boundaries and you admit that, you know, we're in a world of ideas. You know, one idea is not necessarily as good as another. And if you really are passionate, you know, you are willing to go that extra mile and say, I can do something better for you every time.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it comes back to. Maybe it comes back to having taken that leap of faith, risking that and finding out that it paid off. You know, it is much easier not to risk anything. It is. Just assume that bar is going to stay at that level. So okay.
And put it in the client's court. You know, sometimes people will just go, well, throw it out to the client and see what they think. If they like it, fine, that's good. But you've always got to be doing what you think is absolutely best.
Okay.
I'm a hard person to work for.
It's a cool place to be when you're setting that standard. Let's talk about standards. Let's talk about clients. When it comes to Milestone Bellanova, if you were to transpose yourself to one of your clients now, what values do you think they get out of, and why are they with Milestone Bellanova?
I would hope that the that we're judged on results, not just tasks. At the end of the day, we're there to help them grow their business.
Do you measure everything? I'll leave that. Do you measure?
Do our clients measure, or do we measure? We measure a lot. Like over the last year, we've put in so many effective systems. I'm not a systems person. I do massive lists, and
I'm quite familiar with your list.
But I tend to plan in detail. Big picture stuff is in lots of detail for me. So we've simplified our systems over the last year, so our level of reporting is easy. It's really easy to manage. And we do measure everything, but instead of me analysing, Excel sheets and, revenue constantly and clients, I just get simple reports now. And it's been amazing. It really is so simple.
Does that reflect to what the client sees from Barber Ketley and Milestone Bellanova, or is that internal? It does go.
Well, no, it gets down to workflow. It gets down to staffing who produce better work within a reasonable time frame. I mean, every day at 9 o'clock in the morning, I get a report on my desk that tells me what my staff did the day before. And it's detailed. It says if they've got any issues, what they've been working on by job. It takes me 5 minutes. I flick through it. I can see, someone here's got an issue. There's a client issue here. I can go and fix it within 10 minutes. Then I can get on with my own work. So in terms of efficiency, of course, that goes to the client. In terms of client reporting, we love to work with clients who put in systems for reporting, and we always encourage it. And we've got some good clients who do track their results in a level of detail that we sit down once a month and we'll go, okay, what was the results from last month? Did that campaign work? Where are we looking for the next month? And they're great clients to work with. Now, other clients have a marketing manager in, so they don't need that from us, but I still like to ask them how they're going. Is there anything that we can do to add value by coming up with new campaigns that they haven't thought of, or anything to do with repositioning them, or making the most of opportunities.
That value add phrase comes up quite often. It's about defining it. Do you have a couple of values that you think your clients are looking for?
Well, the bottom line is clearly one. And our clients, I think, are pretty reasonable in understanding that marketing involves a lot. Marketing's not just about whether you've just produced a brochure that you've done a letterbox drop with, and how has that impacted the business. There's a lot of things happening at the same time for most clients. They might be on television, they might be doing some online work, some other media, etc. So, and some customer retention work, etc. So if they can put in the systems to measure all those things, then that helps us to define our campaigns and refine them. But if they don't, then we're really sitting down with them and asking them, questions face to face. Tell me what you feel. Did it work? What can we do better next time? So the question was?
Well, is that reporting process giving them what they need? And by the flow of, the efficiencies of the studio and your workers, yes, it is smoother and more effective and more efficient. Then the opportunity to work with them and get their feedback and adjust. We've just done something in this area too. Adjust the communication so they match their needs. And the better the clients are, the easier they are to work with. The less sophisticated, then the challenge is for you to ask some questions to
look for ways to help that. And yes,
and it is about value added.
But it's building trust. At first, clients are, particularly if they're having issues with their marketing, they're not always willing to let you have all the information that you need to do your job. There's a real pride thing, I think, on the Central Coast as well. It's a small community, and people don't like to tell other people that they've got issues in certain ways. I've certainly come across that. So building trust means working with a client for a certain amount of time, offering solutions without being paid for it very often, because we generally want to help our clients. If we're doing a web, for example, it's not a matter of the web developer doing a flowchart and just getting it done. It's a matter of us sitting down and saying, what do you want to achieve? How is this going to be integrated into your business? What key messages do you want to get across? And still taking a strategic approach to what is, some people would say is as a technical task. to us, it's not a technical task.
No, it's a piece of communication. Yeah, that needs to be responded to
Strategically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Indeed, I like that word. If we talk about leadership, and Milestone Bellanova has seen massive change on the Central Coast, and we come back to our clients, and they come to you for that leadership and those values that you represent. You've mentioned trust, and you build that. What else is, and it's a horrible phrase, but at the end of the day, a strong client, a client of 3 or 4 years, comes back and has to tell me, Mark Cleary, what they get from the relationship with Milestone Bellanova and Barbara through that. What would they list? What do you want them to list, and what do they list?
Okay, well, I think they rely on our experience. I think there's a lot of people who think they're marketers in a business environment, not professional marketers. So we've got to be able to add more to the equation than just delivering on their task. We've got to take them beyond their initial brief, because very often their brief is very limited. They don't have that experience to know where they're going, and we give them a sense of security. I think, if they can trust our experience, then they place themselves in our hands, and that's a great client who will say, okay, now this is my problem. I don't actually have the solution to it, rather than coming to us and saying, just deliver on this brief. So it's a proactive approach. I think they're looking for us to guide them. And to do that, they've got to understand what we do know. And we've been in this industry for over 20 years. We've seen a lot from the big business down to the very small business. 14 years working with SMEs, and before that working with corporates. So our level of experience is actually quite large. I employ a team, I think, that's diverse, and I think that really adds to the mix. I have the senior people in the team, but I love employing fresh, young innovators, young, fresh talent straight out of who are graduates, who have something else to add to the mix. So it's an exciting dynamic, and I think the way I always feel when I'm sitting with a client is I want them to walk out going, wow, I've got real hope in my business. I can see a future, and this has really excited me. And I think we do achieve that. If we don't, if the client walks out going, yeah, okay, they've ticked a few boxes, then I've failed. I haven't inspired them.
Inspiring solutions.
Yes, well, up on our wall, it's inspiration to achieve.
I think I read
yes, and I think that is what we try and do to get people, and very often if they're business people who have hit a problem, like the GFC, it can be very disheartening for them. They can see more problems than they can see solutions. And it's at times like that that they really do need to rely on somebody else and say, okay, you've convinced me you know what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to test it, but I'm going to let you have the lead in this and go with what you say.
Inspiration to achieve.
Yes.
Barbara Ketley, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Mark.
for your time.